Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome everyone into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology turned podcast. Everyone, welcome into the program. I hope that you've been well. And hey, you are ready for the hectic, chaotic Christmas season, holiday season. Ladies and gentlemen, it's going to be a lot of fun. I hope that all of you are doing well, and this will be one of our last shows before we head out into the holiday break. Christmas landing on a Wednesday is always a really weird thing because it's like, hey, the 23rd, you should still be working. The 27th, you should be working. But also, yeah, it's it's a weird way to kind of spend a holiday season. So with that being said, everyone, welcome into the program. I hope that you are ready for today's show because it's going to be a fun one. We have the one, the only Mr. Nathan Evans. He'll be joining us here in just a moment. He is managing editor of Popzara.com. If you haven't heard of them, where have you been? They have a fantastic website dedicated to all things horrific pictures right when you open up the site, but also other things. They have everything from pop culture, everything entertainment that you could really wish for, and of course some overlap with us when it comes to technology, tech reviews. They have so many good writers there that, kind of help you navigate not just maybe the holiday season with, kind of what to buy, what to look for, what to see, but also to help you navigate this crazy entertainment fuel world. We recorded a show earlier this morning, and it had to do with the trend. It was a survey of like 1,000. It was a survey of like 1,000 car executives and where they see the industry going. And ladies and gentlemen, if you think entertainment is, just bombarding you at the moment, wait until cars are just completely self-driving and just completely, you are a potato in a carrier that needs to be entertained. And my goodness, it's just going to be nonstop. So with that being said, we'll bring Nathan on here in just a moment. But before we do, computeramerica.com, that's where you'll find everything, including the show notes. The show notes will have links to anything and everything, including our guest website that that we may talk about. And if you want to find out more, head on over to our site, and of course, you can find it right there. Should not be hard. By the time that you hear this, those show notes will be up. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and bring on Nathan. And again, popzara.com. Nathan, how you been? Been a while.
Ben, how have you been, Ben?
Ben has been betterly. So yeah, no, it's been a wild couple of months, but I'm happy.
Disasters, natural disasters, personal disasters, just disaster. You know who we need? We need a hero. We need a hero from another planet, another place that can swoop in and save us. We need Elon Musk and Doge. No, I'm kidding. We need Superman and crypto.
I thought you were going to talk about the human Martian. I did not see. Okay.
By the way, that's a fun thing you said about the cars and self-driving. I don't think people understand exactly what that means. I don't think they quite grasp how much autonomous driving vehicles are going to change the culture. I was reading an analogy to this a while back, like 2-3 years ago, that self-driving cars are going to change the roads the same way elevators changed the skyscraper. Is that the convenience? We don't quite understand what that means yet.
Yeah.
But when you have the convenience of trains with the autonomy of cars, it's going to be very, very transformative.
Yeah, it's the point that I always put out to people is, the American way of life, and really all over the world, has been two things. You've had two spaces. You've had the workspace and the home space, and you really travel between those two. You optimize for those two things. But now with cars being self-driving, eventually, I'm not saying tomorrow or in 5 years or whatever, Elon Musk has said that self-driving cars are finally coming. But when they do get here, you'll have a third space, and that will be the car. Because once you're no longer driving, having to pay attention, not dying, you will you will have to be entertained. You will have to find something to do, either be entertained or be productive or be, it will be a third space just as important as the home or the work.
Americans don't quite understand because the country is so damn big, right? It's just so massive. Like Americans do not comprehend this. But in Europe, you can have like 12 countries within spitting distance of each other. You could go ahead and have bangers and mash in the morning, and you could have, croquettes and, snails for dinner. And
maybe Europeans,
you have so many carriage systems over there where you can get from one country to the next. But in America, it takes you 3 days to drive across the whole thing.
Maybe more so, it's like Europeans don't understand Americans because Europeans are like, oh, you drive for 4 hours, and like you said, you're in two different countries, or you're in a different country through two other countries. In America, it's like, oh, you're still in Texas, you're still
exactly,
in Florida. Like it's, I think Americans know all too well, but so car industry aside, and we will have some stories to talk about here in the car. I think one of these was car, maybe they weren't any car, but. Yeah.
The thing about it, though, I mean, going back to what I was saying, though, but like in Japan, you have the monorail, right? In Japan, you can get to like, I forget the two cities that connect, but like, you can take I think it's Shinjuku to Tokyo or whatever.
Yeah.
That's the equivalent of like you going from California to Vegas in like 40 minutes. That's crazy. Like that's absolutely crazy. And but you go to those lifestyles, Ben, and people aren't sitting there paying attention. They're doing computer work, they're doing knitting, crocheting, they're cooking. It's a completely different lifestyle once you don't have to worry about who's driving.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's going to happen to just the driving culture in general. Yeah. I just think it's going to change so much. Like you said, we're going to have a third place, and we could talk about this all day. And by the way. I'm happy for it because I don't give a damn about cars. I don't care. I can change my tire, which is a lot, but cars are going to become much more interesting because we're going to be able to deck them out. We're going to have a lot more fun. Yeah. We're going to have parties in them. We're going to have birthday parties. You're invited to my birthday party, and we can play games in them, and we can have children in them. And you know what? We're just going to live in the cars.
That's right. That's right. You had a birthday earlier this week, so I'm sure feeling 35
Go to hell.
is
go to hell and. Everything you stand for. So no, thank you for that. No, you know what's funny? We all have them every year. Go figure. If you're lucky, and if you don't have a birthday every year, well, my condolences.
You do until you don't. So I hope yours is good. And for everyone out there who may be listening to us for the first time, and it's like, oh, is this just going to be some weird off the wall stuff? Yes, that is probably what this is going to be. But also, if you're watching the video portion, I appreciate you. You can see here we have Popzara here in the background as we talk. And so Nathan, for the nice folks out there who may be the first time listening, tell us what Popzara is.
Oh, stay away. No, as people don't know, people who know or don't know, Popzara is basically like a Bizarra of pop culture. We kind of hit the quadrants. We have film, movies, television shows sometimes, video games, books, a little bit of culture. I think you saw a Nerf gun on the front page. Go figure. Yeah. Go, Chris. A little bit of appliances. Like you said, there's some overlap between Computer America and Popzara when there is tech. But primarily, it's just sort of irreverent, non sequitorish look at things. No politics, no snark. We got a cartoon green mascot dinosaur. You won't find that on CNN, unless you look at some of the hosts. But anyway, it's a little bit of everything. And hopefully in 2025, fingers crossed, we will be going through a slight redesign to modernize the site in a little bit because you need to keep up with the Joneses,
of course.
And but other than that, though, it's a lot of fun. We have a lot of really talented writers who have gotten their start there, and we welcome. And like you said, you've worked with us for quite a while. We always have a good time with it. And look at that. Look at that. Look at that cartoon thing, and then a grotesque creature underneath. Like you won't like that's real diversity right there.
Yes,
look at that. It's gross.
It is truly a wonderful mixture of just unseasonably and seasonably relevant stories. So hey, look, 2 Nerf darts. There you go.
Yeah, that is a Nerf dart. Go, Chris. Like I said, weapons. Yeah.
There you go. With that being said, speaking of weapons, looking through our stories here, we have a number of stories that we're just gonna kind of pick from. We're gonna have fun for an hour, a little over an hour. And I was looking through some of the stories that you sent. Honestly, I think fun place to start would be let's start with the deaths. Let's start with the tech obituaries that we may have missed over the last couple of days, and I say we start with this one, and it got some. Oops! Whoa! Did not mean to reopen close tab. There we go. Did not mean to really kind of miss this one, but LG, and even as far back as when Craig was making his wild predictions. Physical, like one of his favorite was once digital takes hold, physical media is not really, going to stick around too much. So we have this article here from Tom's Hardware that you sent over. LG stops making Blu-ray players, marking the end of an era. Now, that does not mean that Blu-ray players or Blu-ray makers and Blu-ray discs are not being made anymore. It's just one of the larger brands has sold off that part of their, kind of business. So you included this. What caught you about this other than the obvious, this is just the inevitable end for physical media?
I mean, this is really a conversation starter. We could dedicate a book to this subject. So, but long story short, no media lasts forever unless it's paper and parchment, as we know. But when we're talking to optical media, I've had this conversation with you, with my editors for a long time. So my feelings haven't changed. I think a lot of our affinity for optical, Blu-ray, DVD, whatever, VHS, cassette, 8mm, it comes from nostalgia. Like this is what I grew up with. Like this year in theaters, there was a movie, Alien. What was the new Alien movie that came out? Romulus? Alien Romulus came out, right?
Yeah.
Pretty good hit, pretty big hit for the franchise, and it was supposed to be a streaming movie. But like a lot of Hollywood companies, they realized the theater, which again, everyone predicted was dead, came back to life, and you can make a lot more money on theaters, right? Because it's a marquee performance. So the movie was rejiggered into a movie, made a lot of money in theaters, and guess what it came out on?
Streaming only, right?
No, VHS. VHS.
Yes.
I'm not joking. Look it up.
Magnetic tape. Nice.
It's also on Hulu, right? You get on Hulu. But you see, my point is that it's the reports of my death have been greatly exaggerated. So the problem isn't that optical media is going away. I've given up on that idea. Like we love this. Oh, the king is dead. The king is dead. It's the boy who cried wolf. But the fact of the matter is that movie theaters, home video, whatever, it's going to become niche in a way that is necessary. It will not be the dominant force that way it was. Nothing is. Nothing in my lifetime is ever going to be as prevalent as VHS was when I was a kid.
So I will say that I see it kind of like what were like the tubes that you put into like the sonophones or whatever, and they would play music, and they were like 150 years old. They have like little braille all over them. They would play a tune.
I think they were tubes. Tubes. Yeah.
Whatever they are, and they were from like 150 years ago, and they were like even before record players and records. Like that is still cool to collectors, and collectors still.
Is it pneumatic tubes?
Yeah, so, something like that. And they, they're still attractive to collectors. It's an old piece of technology. Like it will always have a cool factor because it is old and it's what came before. But I feel like it's gonna need that it factor, and I think records still have it because they're big, they're pressed.
Oh no, vinyl. I was going to bring up vinyl too. Vinyl has vinyl sells better than anything now. Like vinyl, it's almost mainstream again. Almost, it's crazy.
It's a physical thing that you can collect. It's cool. The problem though is in VHS, like I don't. Hipsters are going to be hipsters. You can't account for that. VHS kind of sucks though. No offense.
But you know what? Here's the thing though about VHS. Let me tell you about VHS. It does suck, but there is something to say about having a big, thick thing in your hand. You stick in a player, and that's what you're watching, right? And if you don't like it, you get two of those things, then tape over it, and then eventually, and you can watch whatever you want in like rapidly degrading quality until eventually the tape snaps. You got to open up the cassette, take a piece of masking tape, fix it, put it back in, and enjoy interruptions in your movie as your clumsy fix is literally only a Band-Aid. See, that's the VHS lifestyle. You probably don't remember. Young.
I recall. Well, I mean, I was like 6, so we just threw them away because we don't know how these things work. Just throw them away. But no, and it's So my point is like there's a coolness factor to old formats that I don't think will ever go away. Right now we're in the renaissance, like you said, of vinyl, and that's doing really well. But when it comes to CDs, like yeah, CDs, they're a bit of a nostalgia hit, but these discs just aren't. In my personal opinion, in my humble opinion, they aren't cool enough to really be that much of a collector's thing. And Blu-ray is included with that.
Well, because we're not quite done with discs. That's the thing. VHS is done. It's not a technology that's up for discussion. Everything about VHS sucks. Everything.
Mm-hmm.
There's no benefit to VHS over maybe resilience, right? But even then, you could say that the tape would degrade if you throw it in the ground, right?
Right.
But like a very popular podcast right now is the Quentin Tarantino podcast with him and Roger Avery. It's called The Video Archives, because those two used to work at a video store back in the 80s, right? They bought the store. The whole podcast is just about them watching VHS tapes. Just them. Just the whole thing. People love it. But am I going to go out and get VHS? No, I'm really happy that VHS is gone. I don't like VHS. I did my time, right? I did, but it's like military service required every 2 years. I did my VHS time. I moved on. But I'll tell you what, though, Ben. Here's the thing. Do you have a Blu-ray player in your house, or a 4K Blu-ray player?
Yes.
Which is it, standalone or is it like a console?
Standalone.
Okay. I do too. I had a PS5 in the house this year. For the website we had PS5s, but I bought my own PS5. Turns out I don't really play it a lot, so I took it back and I got a standalone Sony 4K Ultra Blu-ray player. And it turns out I actually enjoy it. I enjoy the thing about it, but here's the thing. We talk about streaming, Netflix, Amazon, whatever. A 4K Blu-ray player is going to give you a vastly, vastly better performance than any streaming service can on its best day in the world. And you can't say that about other dead media. Like, people talk about how much better vinyl sounds. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. But if you get a really high FLAC bitrate thing, it's going to sound better than vinyl. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So
no, there's always compression. I will say, some of the most insufferable people I've met, no offense, and CS is going to come up later.
They're all. I know what you're going to say, and they're all like that.
Audiophiles are almost as bad as car people. They are.
No, they're worse. They're worse
insufferable.
because at least cars can, like, you can go get pizza with cars. You can't get pizza with audio. You can't be in the same room with them.
You can get the warmth of the sound and the fuzziness and the tin and the
no. We see this. We can bring the world together with our disgust of audiophiles and cyclists. But I'll tell you this. But going back to 4K Blu-ray, like, if you watch a 4K Blu-ray player on a nice display, like an OLED TV or even like a QLED with a decent soundbar, it sounds so much better than anything you get anywhere. Like, it's night and day. It's night and day. Like, you hear problems about streaming on color grading, compression when it comes to audio. Certain types of audio artifacting doesn't allow speech to come in. It's nothing but complaints. Technology is good, but it's not that great compared to physical media. So unlike everything else, if you have a 4K player, if you have here's a PSA, Ben, for all the listeners. If you have an OLED TV in your house, get a 4K Blu-ray player, because that's literally the only thing that can use that technology. You need something to watch. You can't get it on streaming. Streaming is just not going to be good. That's like getting, that's like buying a truck so you can deliver pizzas. Like, don't get a really nice TV if you're not going to get the media that can take the most out of it. Just don't bother. It just doesn't look as good. But
I will say that one of the main factors that has held back, the reason that physical media could do that is, kind of throughput, essentially, the read write speed, all that good stuff. Physically with a disc and a Blu-ray player, you could do that much better. I will say internet speeds have increased a ton in the last couple of years, and that's something that I probably don't give the internet companies much credit for, especially with as much time as I spend without internet. But even two or 3 years ago, the average internet speed was about 120. And I know some people are going to sit out there and be like, I'm still getting 50, Ben. No way that's the case. They're factoring in very niche cases where, you have like Kansas City, for instance, who has Google Fiber.
Same argument about the cars, by the way. America's so big that you literally cannot compare, like, the average upload download speed of ISPs in America to, like, Denmark. You can't do it because we're like, no offense, you could fit 1,000 Denmarks in Texas. Like, it doesn't compare. And I'm in Kansas City. I have internet that's better than anybody listening. If you're listening to this, my internet's better than yours. In fact, it got better. Did you hear Google Fiber? They have new tiers.
Did they add like 1010 now? Like 10 gigabits up and down?
Like they call me all the time, like, do you want to do 10 gigabit service? I don't need it. I have two. Like, they make you feel that 2 is bad. 2 gigabit is not bad. 2 gigabit is the future.
2 gigabits 10 times better than the average in this year. So yeah, like 100 was the best, or I'm sorry, was the average in 2022. Now we're up to just over 2 or just below 250 is the current average right now for the internet. And of course, again, the average means that half of you listening, it's going to be worse. The other half of you listening, it's going to be better. So the only thing I want to say about that is, you know, when it comes to Blu-ray player and Blu-ray and all that good stuff, streaming wasn't really comparable because of the compression and, you know, the downscaling and everything that you have to do to get the data from one place to another. But Nathan, that is improving, and
improving.
What is good enough, it is improving, and it's improving year over year.
It's convenience, Ben. Let's be honest. It's convenience. You know, and for those people who don't, people download, they bootleg, they do all kinds of stuff. But directors have been complaining about it too. Movie directors have been complaining about streaming quality because I guess different providers, different, you know, Amazon's no longer just a merchandise purveyor. It's a content delivery system and content creator. So you'll get different versions of different shows that have variable bitrate quality, audio quality, and they'll complain about, like, it doesn't look good on Hulu. It doesn't look as good as it should on Apple or whatever. So opinions vary, but I will say this. Here's my caveat. I say go get a Blu-ray player. I say this knowing full well that the medium is probably on its last legs. I think there's a gold mine, and I'm going to give you $1 billion idea right here. I don't know why we insist that media is on circular flat things. Like, we have been doing circular flat things for 70 years now, since the phonograms days. We live in it. Like, if you think about it, there's nothing on that 4K Blu-ray disc. There's nothing on that disc that can't fit on a memory card, right? It's just data. It's just like if you buy an Xbox Series X or PlayStation 5 game, that disc is worthless. All that disc does is basically trigger a download from a server to download a better version than what's on that disc, right? The disc is just a delivery system. That's all it is. It doesn't make anything better. Nothing's on the disc like a vinyl record. If you play a vinyl record 50 times, every time you play that vinyl record, it degrades. Eventually, it will degrade itself. It will be gone. It will be gone, right? Optical discs don't have that problem, whatever. But what I'm saying is that if you're a venture capitalist or something, create a new form media that bypasses these circular pancakes and just create a new type of digital, maybe a DAT tape, a digital audio kind of like a SD card readings thing, and make that the new format for movies. Because you know what? It is so ridiculous, Ben. You see these people. You can time lapse them. I got 1,000 VHS clamshells. I got DVDs. I got DVD collector's editions. I got DVD box sets. I got Blu-rays. I got 4K Blu-rays. Oh my God, you're a loser. How much money did you spend? Seriously, like no college for your kids.
I have seen
you need 5,000 copies of Lord of the Rings.
Well, Jesus. We all do, but but I have seen, and I think it was one of the Nintendo Switch or even one of the earlier the earlier Nintendo handhelds. You buy the box like a traditional video game, and then you open it up, and there's that little SD card in there that you would slot into either again one of the old Game Boys or whatever. But like it seems so cheap, I think, and that's where physical like the Blu-ray disc kind of came in. At least I won't say it had heft. I don't think anyone's ever broken their back trying to lift a CD, but it was physically big. I think when you get too small, it feels like you're not paying for,
No, exactly.
enough,
you need some meat on the bones, a little bit, something to hold on to that makes you feel like.
There you go.
You know what I mean? Like you said, like a VHS. You put that. Did you know? Here's a little trivia for you. You like RoboCop, the movie, right?
Yep.
I like RoboCop. Everybody if you don't like RoboCop, we cannot be friends. Right? RoboCop is great. I just finished watching this amazing documentary on Amazon. Go figure. Called RoboDoc. Please watch it. Just
RoboDoc.
Watch it. RoboDoc. It's 3 episodes. It's one of the best movie documentaries. You know what? It's the best movie documentary I've ever seen. And they go into super detail about RoboCop sounds. RoboCop sounds are a VHS player. They just recorded the mechanisms of a VHS tape.
Okay.
And that's RoboCop's gun. That's his leg. That's his sounds. It's
Huh.
there's something cool
Mechanical. Yeah.
about the
Makes
sounds
sense.
of VHS. There's something cool about physical things scratching and touching each other. It's primal. I forget where I was reading about it, Ben, but final thought is that you remember about 5, 10 years ago, everything was touchscreen. Everything was going to be
Yeah.
non-tactile. It was going to be touchscreen this, touch, touch, touch. Turns out people hate touchscreens for that stuff. They like
Yeah.
physical buttons.
They
They
like the
like that,
feedback.
yeah,
Yeah.
the tactile feel. They love it. They love the little click it makes. They love the little feedback it makes. They don't like just touching things. And so even if it's just skeuomorphism, even if it's just for giggles, there's a scene in RoboCop where he takes off his mask and the wife thinks that his face is the real face. And she's like,
Right.
touch it. And he's like, no, no, they made this to remember him. It's a fake face because
Yep.
it makes her feel better. And that's what a lot of technology is. It's just fake buttons, fake sounds, because as human beings, we like that fakeness to make us feel like we're doing something. And I
Yeah.
like it too. I'm
You,
all for it.
I believe you're the one who told me about phone trees and just how useless a lot of that information is, and just to keep the end user busy while the phone
Yeah.
tree just connects you with someone. Busy work, busy work.
Well,
So,
you
yeah,
remember the iPhone? You remember when Apple switched and they got rid of the buttons and then they put the fake button on and they engineered this electronic feedback pulse.
yep,
So when you touch an iPhone, it makes you feel like you're touching a button.
yep.
They had to reverse engineer feedback
They had to reverse
to make
engineer
the
a
fake
button.
thing feel
Yep.
like the real thing.
And hey, it worked great.
I love it. Yeah, it's better.
Yeah, it's actually very good. So to wrap up this article, they are doing away with Blu-ray players. Last year, Best Buy stopped selling Blu-rays and DVDs, and a lot of other places are just altogether kind of closing up shop. Not saying
Yeah.
Blu-ray is absolutely dead yet. Let's face it, as long as Redbox is still in business, they're not going to be
Yeah.
dead.
Oh, too soon, Ben. Too soon.
But yeah, it's not going anywhere like right now, but this is clearly just another thing in the trend. So
I will make a prediction real quick. You mentioned the Switch a little bit ago. They've already announced that the Switch 2 will be backwards compatible. You know what I mean? Like there's, one of our editors just got the PS5 Pro, right? It does not come with a Blu-ray player. You have to buy that separately. So it makes a more expensive console even more expensive. The writing's on the wall for optical media. It's for all intents and purposes, it's over as a mainstream delivery system. But if you're into niche genre stuff, then it's probably going to survive another 10, 15 years, probably. Ben, all right, can you hear me? I can't hear you. Big Optical has got us. They're trying to tear us down. They're trying to shut us down. They don't like this message to get through. Big Blu-ray.
can you hear me now?
There we go. See, Big Blu-ray was after us.
I don't know what
They're-
happened. The microphone just stopped. Okay, well, someone didn't like what I was saying, and probably my own PC. We can go ahead and just say that if you're watching the video screen, you can see it there. You see me struggling with my microphone. But Nintendo Switch finally surpasses PlayStation 2 in the US just before Christmas or just after the buying season, but whatever. Yeah, Nintendo Switch I think has solidified itself as the console. Like PlayStation 2 is obviously infamous, but yeah, I mean, one of the
both
greats.
great. Both
One of the
fun.
greats.
I mean, both amazing sales for video game consoles. It's crazy.
Mhm.
But you know what's funny? It's kind of funny that we mentioned this because one of the things that made the PlayStation 2 so successful was the fact that it had a Blu-ray DVD drive built into
True.
it. Like people don't remember, Ben, when DVD was a flagging format when the PS2 came out in 2000. Blu-ray DVD, I keep saying Blu-ray. DVDs would come out with stickers that said compatible with PS2. Like it was the driving force for that format. It helped put more DVD players, which was funny because a few years later, in 2006, when the Nintendo Wii came out, remember the Wii?
Yep.
The Wii was the console that helped drive streaming because it was so cheap and affordable. It was the console. It was the way that people watched Netflix for like 5 years. Like you need formats. Like they're not going to decide what format is successful. They're not going to say, "Oh, this is the blue blorb format. You're going to watch blue blorbs." It's going to be the dominant thing that's in the hands of the most people, which is why Netflix is dominant, which is why certain things are dominant because it's available on everything and it has to be cheap and easy.
Right.
And so, yeah, that's how it works.
So
the market will decide.
I want to say that the Switch, according to the article here, is only now behind the Nintendo DS, which sold 53.8 million units, and with the Switch currently being at
in the US.
In the US.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and this article is obviously talking about all the U.S. numbers, but I mean, like worldwide, like the Switch is top, right? Like, there's nothing that's sold better than the Switch at this point, right?
Again, you have to really get into semantics to make a counter argument. Like the DS is, a portable unit, but Nintendo's about to announce the Switch 2 or whatever it's called. A lot of people, myself included, are kind of hoping that they're going to restore the dual screen to it. Because it's a fantastic format. I love the dual screen thing. I mean, speaking of LG and Google and everyone's been chasing foldable phones, and I
was about to say, I think you're advocating for foldable here.
No, not really. No, foldable sucks. But there's nothing there's nothing that you can't do a latch system, like just a screen that folds out. Right?
So DS. Yeah.
DS is great. I'll be honest with you. I think the DS. It doesn't get any credit for it, right? But I would say the DS is the most transformative mobile technology right after the iPhone. I think it's the one that trained people to use a mini computer in their pocket and to be comfortable with that sort of thing.
It was really the first time that you had like a touchscreen, not just obviously buttons on the side, but that lower screen was how you interacted with
useful.
the game.
It was useful, but it also had a microphone, right? And I remember my favorite piece of software on the DS. My favorite piece of software is actually not a game. It was called Personal Trainer Cooking, right? I love this thing. And you just put your DS on the kitchen, and you put the game in, and you could talk to the DS, and it would teach you how to cook. It would show little videos. It would say, "Let's do this. Chop the onion," and you'd say, "Okay, next step." And we would actually cook recipes from it. It's like this was back in 2006. It's crazy.
Yeah,
this is years
ahead of its time.
And I'd never felt that sort of connection with anything else, but technology should be as dumb as a toaster. It should be accessible, right? We talk about cars and monorails and everything, but bullet trains. But no, I think technology, it should be available to as many people as possible. And I think Nintendo has a fantastic opportunity to do something they have never done, which is have two successful consoles back to back for the home. Because they always fudge it up. Nintendo just can't. Nintendo's like a scab. Like they just can't stop picking at it. Like, you know what? Everyone loved the Switch. This whole idea of a mobile hybrid console that docks to your TV, portable. Oh, Microsoft's copying it. Sony's copying it. Okay, let's muck that up. Let's screw it up. Let's do something different. No, Nintendo, do not do anything different. Just don't do it.
The only thing they can do different. The only thing they could do different is just overhaul their netcode, and then hey, maybe online play would actually be usable. So we'll see.
We'll see. Here's the thing, Nintendo. No one is playing you first for online. Don't even bother. That is not your wheelhouse.
Yeah.
Make your Marios and your Zeldas, but please.
With that being said, let's go ahead and do one more little nail in the coffin. And it's not really like the biggest nail. It's like a little tiny nail. Skype. Hey, remember that? That used to be a huge fixture here on the show. But Skype credit. There you go. Mm-hmm. And you can't buy any new Skype credit or a Skype number anymore. And this is one of those stories that's like, Skype's still around? Because like it had
Don't make fun of me. I use that service.
So weird, but still, no, like Skype had this huge market dominance, and then the COVID-19 pandemic happened, and they're like, you know what? We're gonna just fumble this as hard as we can, and we're just gonna have Zoom come in and just pick up everything. Like Skype was so well positioned, it's almost like the Sears story of the modern age. That they should have been the productivity tool and the meeting tool that we all use every day, but instead, here we are.
When the second Iraqi war happened in 2003, right? You remember all the embedded journalists were using Skype, and so we all kind of got used to that glitchy, like I'm here, that mobile connection.
Yeah, exactly.
But I'll tell you what. I love Skype. I think Skype is a fantastic program. I think in some ways it's better than Zoom. The biggest thing it has over Zoom is it doesn't cost you anything to have more than two people on the phone on the
True.
call. That's a big deal. The problem is everything you said is true, but let me add more to that. Skype preferences garbage over productivity. Like literally, they hide the useful features like share screen, share this, but they prioritize emojicons, right?
Yeah.
And they have like I would say this. I use Skype all the time. I subscribe to the service. We had a mobile phone number because for Popzara we would do podcasts, and we still talk to a lot of very old people. Like we talk to 90-year-olds sometimes.
Yeah,
They
you
don't
need a
have
number.
Skype,
Yeah,
so
you need
we
a
would
number.
call them, and they would call us. They could call in. That's kind of let's just say that doesn't happen a lot anymore. But the fact of the matter is that it's super powerful. It has transcribing abilities. You can record calls right on it. It doesn't cost anything to use those features. And the quality of Skype is so good. Like, I don't know if you've ever used it recently, but the latency of Skype is much better than anything else, better than Zoom. Again, it's just hidden under this sloppy interface that you don't trust. You
Yeah.
just don't trust it because it's so sloppy
I'm-
and it's updated. They update it like 10 times a day. So you never know when you click it on, it's going to update again. But the interface is awful. It's awful.
Like
It's unintuitive. It's horrible.
we make fun of Google for how eager they seem to kill off products before they really have a shake, before they really have a chance, and they're willing to kill a product just to introduce a new product that does the same thing and then kill that thing off too. Like Google kills things off, but you got to give them credit that when they see something that could be better, instead of like, I don't know, taking on this massive tech debt of just updating and, kind of repurposing all this good stuff, Google wipes their hands clean and goes, we'll try again later with something different. I feel like Microsoft could use a little bit of that spirit. And honestly, Skype is, like you said, it's still a good service. It's still for what you need it to be. It can do the job. But I feel like they have this team suite, that is productivity, that is, for the workplace. Why not integrate Skype into Teams?
Because, well, here's the thing, though. I think they finally disentangled Teams from the office. Like they tried to. That's the thing. Skype has the eBay curse. Do you remember this? The eBay curse, where eBay at one point could have been Amazon, right? Could have been Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
It was positioned to be Amazon. It was the dominant e-commerce site. eBay at one point.
Yeah.
eBay bought PayPal. You remember that?
Yeah.
eBay bought Skype. eBay should have bought Yahoo. But the problem is they fumbled. And you see this fumbling happen all the time. You have companies that are never going to succeed in hindsight because they purchased amazing software and did not know what to do with it, right? Like,
to be fair, I think eBay could still buy Yahoo right now. I think it's still up for sale. So
is it? I think I could buy Yahoo right now. But the fact of the matter is you look back on it now and you see it's so obvious, right? It's so obvious in hindsight where what Amazon did was right and what eBay did was wrong. You could see that now. But going back to it, though, eBay bought PayPal, right, from Elon Musk, I think, right? Go figure. And they bought Skype. They bought all this. Didn't know what to do with it. Said screw it. Microsoft bought what? Microsoft bought Skype from them, in 2010, 2011. They got rid of their horrible thing. Microsoft did something right that Google did not. Microsoft wisely said, our message service sucks. Let's get rid of it. Let's replace it with this better service. The problem is what you said, is that Microsoft never fully invested in Skype the way they should. Do you remember the transition when this happened? You still see people with this. Like, you had to create a new Microsoft account. Some people had Live ID. It's kind of when Microsoft bought Hotmail, and it created this schism. It's very confusing. What Microsoft should have done is just said, screw it, you have to re-register, and we will carry this over. But instead, they had different formats. You had different people logins. You had live login. You had Microsoft MSN login, Hotmail login. It didn't work. It was just too confusing. Zoom, I think, just said, you know what, we're new. Just use Zoom. Boom.
Yep.
Here we go.
Zoom had the added benefit of you didn't need an account because Skype did try to go, almost, I don't want to say like the Snapchat route, but like they wanted to go to the social media route,
Ugh.
where they, which, to your point, for them, really lifting up emojis and emoticons and stuff like that. They want to turn it into like your social gathering place, whereas Zoom is like, hey, you don't even need a profile. You just need the link. You need the call-in number. You need, and just click it or call in, and hey, you're using the service. As long as someone is paying, we really don't care. The service is the service. So
Microsoft fumbled too again, where they actually added that feature a couple years ago where you could send someone a Skype link and you could use Skype on the web because it was powered by Azure. It wasn't, a peer-to-peer network like it used to be, right? And you could use Skype on Chromebook, you could use it on iPad, you could use it everywhere as long as you had the link. But again, Microsoft said, even though they had this great software, they said, you know what? Teams is our boy. Let's use Teams. Nobody uses Teams unless you're at a business.
Yeah, my wife is part of a healthcare organization, and they use Teams excessively. But unless you're part of an organization that is literally thousands strong with thousands of users, and like that's how they organize, no one's using Teams. It's like, I'm gonna call my mom on Teams. Like, no one's doing that.
No, exactly. Like Teams. Like, here's the other thing: if you're a business, right? If you're a business and you have a lot of money involved and you have clients, you're going to take one look at Skype's bubblegum interface and say, no.
Right.
Like, people look at Zoom and say it looks boring. I look at Zoom and I think professional. Like, I can trust that company with money. It's probably sucking all my data and selling it to China, but at least it looks good. Whereas Skype, oh my goodness, it's a mess. Like, I'll get into this later, but I spent a couple weeks with a Mac, just doing some Mac testing last month, which we could talk about later. Skype is available, but a lot of the features are switched off for Mac users, right? So there's not parity between versions of the software. And so I like Skype. We use it for Popzara, full disclosure, because we couldn't do it without it. But we've used Zoom too, and maybe eventually we'll migrate completely. But I like Skype. I have some legacy fondness for it. It's a wonderful service, and I recommend if anyone is out there on a budget, you want to make a podcast, please look at Skype. But Microsoft, get your act together. It is disgusting. Like, it looks horrible.
Even to this day, even though we've migrated from Skype, I will say Skype probably some of the best audio quality, of any communication. So,
you guys used to use Google Hangouts.
Yeah.
Man.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
But
no thanks.
That's because we went all in on Google Plus. We were thinking Google Plus was going to be the new Facebook. Boy, egg on our face. That was crazy. But no, okay. So Nathan, we have like 15, 20 minutes ish to kind of talk, and we have only talked about. Okay, so Skype, not dead, but obviously some of the services, they are at least trimming out Skype. So what that means for the future of Skype. It's maybe the way of the Blu-ray player. We'll see. But now, speaking of old technology, you sent the story, and I thought it was cute, so we're going to talk about it. Yeah. Technology, when it's made well, and like, even though all the keyboards that we have kind of tested here on the show, reviewed on the show, I still use one keyboard that I have for, I think, 9 years now. Tested some out, and some of them have died, some have had bad keys, and but like, when something is made really, really well, you don't really change it. And through all luck, through all manners of maybe donut related catastrophes, good, well-made technology can last for a long, long time. Which, really, when you think about, Nathan, I mean, you do some of your reviews with you and with your editors, like, people are incentivized saying, hey, your keyboard's not flashy enough, it's not good enough. But at the end of the day, a good keyboard should really just be that, a good, easy to use, comfortable, reliable keyboard. And who knew, maybe that was a Commodore 64 all along. So this was a fun story.
Not me, because I grew up with that thing. No, it's to be fair though, where you're going, but you have one little problem, is that there were versions of the Commodore 64 that had different keyboards. There were slight iterations, but the one you're talking about is it's like the derivative of the VIC-20. Did you ever use the Commodore VIC-20?
I have never, no.
Very, very similar. Like, these were all-in-one PCs before there was such a thing as all-in-one PCs. Are we talking about the donuts?
Yes. We're
talking about the donuts.
Yeah, so the images were taken in 2010, but resurfaced on X recently of a Commodore 64 that, in another photo that was taken in 2021, and I guess they called and confirmed it's still in use. Yeah, this was, let's see, when it first, so the article goes about when it first released. I don't know which exact Commodore keyboard this is, but, just for a keyboard. And by the way, good news, it's still connected to some old looking software, so it's not just like a holdover of the keyboard. It is, I think they're actually using the Commodore to run the business as well.
That looks like Commodore stuff, but it looks like it's a business skin of it. But did you ever have a Commodore 64?
I did not know.
It was my first computer.
My first computer, born 91, my first computer was a Windows 95, I want to say. Maybe a Windows 3.1, but shortly thereafter I gained consciousness, Windows 95.
I didn't get it in real time. We were we were poor, and like most people, my only exposure to a computer was in the computer lab at school, right? Or the one Apple II GS we had, right? Oregon Trail or the Boys Club. But my mom was very kind to me. She, for my birthday back in a long time ago, she actually found a Commodore 64 at a yard sale, a box of it, old monochrome monitor, tons of the big by the way, floppy disks back then were not those little hard clamshells; they were the 5-inch floppies.
Yeah, not 3.5, but the 5.5. Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess someone had died with it, and I got it for like $40. I love my Commodore 64. Oh my God, when you have nothing, like 1990 was very different. A computer was magic, right? And I didn't have the modem for it, but apparently, I think it was not GeoCities, what was it called? GeoWorld?
Yeah.
It was something Geo, right? I don't want to say GeoCities, but it had online, like it had BBS boards, everything. Like the Commodore 64 was a remarkable piece of hardware. Outdated even when it came out, but at one point it was a competitor to the Apple II. It was a competitor to the NES. It was a competitor to itself. They had competing versions of it. They had the Commodore 128, which had believe it or not, 128 kilobits of memory.
Like,
that's a lot.
I guess for the use case. Yeah, I guess for the case, I'm sorry. I guess for the use case that they are using it for, this is like their point of sale or like orders. Like they, it's completely self-contained. Like they're not a multi business. Like it's just one building, one business. You have to put in the orders, get out the orders. I'm sure all the payment is obviously done on other computers. This is for what's inside their business. Because I was thinking like, the amount of backwards compatibility that you would have to do, but this thing probably has not been updated in 40 years. It would
never happen. There would be no backwards compatibility.
Right. I don't know. So
Commodore 64. Oh my God.
I thought it was a fun story. So thank you for sharing that with us. And
anybody listening, is it load quotations star quotations, (8, 1). That's how you booted up software in Commodore. I taught myself BASIC on this thing. Then I used to read this magazine called Compute's Gazette, and it was all for Commodore, right? Back in the day, my first ever real computer magazine. And on the back, they would have BASIC. You could make programs. You could program yourself. Again, it was magic back in the time. And I think no one would argue that the Commodore 64 was a great machine, like powerful, but it was so accessible. Right. It was so cheap. Like even by today's, it would be cheap. But you know what? I'll say this before anybody laughs at this donut shop. The U.S. government is still paying fortunes, tens of millions of dollars to keep outdated, like 40-year-old Windows, like Fortran systems.
Yeah, Fortran and whatnot. It's
it's ridiculous.
One of the most lucrative tech jobs out there is working for a corporation, being an independent contractor, but being a contractor to maintain old Fortran and punch card systems for not just the government, but for banking and healthcare as well is huge on that.
I will leave my conversation with Commodore where I should have began it. For anybody who's really bored out of their minds and wants to go down a YouTube rabbit hole, the Commodore 64 had an outstanding sound chip. I forget what it was called, FM something. It was a MIDI sound chip. It still sounds great. Like you could do MIDI or you could do Korg on it. You could do all that stuff. Commodore, God bless you for making one of the best sound chips on any computer of all time. YouTube Commodore 64 music, you will be very happy. It's a very, very fun machine.
So I think with that, we'll have death, we'll have rebirth, or not even rebirth, I guess almost like a twin, I guess, the birth of a twin. Real quick, let's talk about Bluesky, because Bluesky has been this undercurrent that I've been hearing about for the last year. And it's really been picking up steam, where they have hit 25 million users. Now, of course, like most social media, who knows what an authentic user really is. But yeah, let's talk about Bluesky real quick. What caught your eye about this?
Bluesky is this year's Threads. Right? Let's call it what it is. Like, here's the thing, and I told you I don't get into politics on this show, but let me get into politics a little bit, okay? As you know, a very big, powerful man came out of the sky and purchased Twitter a couple of years ago, and not everyone was happy with that purchase. You know this.
Yep.
And since then, there have been kerfuffles about what to do, and some of those arguments are valid, some of those arguments are invalid, but at the end of the day, this is what happens when you have a user base that no longer feels that the product serves them. They seek blue pastures. There's literally been a name for this. It's called blue ocean strategy. It's named after sharks. You've heard of it, right? It's named after sharks in the water. Like when the water becomes red with blood of carnage, you move to bluer seas. So blue skies, which I think is probably, I guarantee you the founders, who I think is what's his name? Who's founded Twitter? What's his name?
Yeah, the guy who founded Twitter.
Right? Dorsey.
Jack Dorsey. Yeah.
Yeah, he's one of the investors in Bluesky. I think he left the platform, by the way, but whatever. But anyway, so there's been a migration, but this is not the first time. There's been other migrations. You've heard of Mastodon. You've heard of all their little. I forget exactly how Mastodon. It's called the Federation.
Yeah,
what is it called?
It was a decentralized kind of peer-to-peer network that couldn't be taken down by anyone. Yeah.
But Twitter doesn't exist in a vacuum, or excuse me, X doesn't exist in a vacuum. You still have Instagram. You still have Facebook. You still have all these other alternatives, right? But like anything else, like I was talking about the Commodore, a social media service is only good if it hits velocity. There's thousands of social media out there that doesn't work. Like, I could have a social media service and you could join it. You and I could talk to each other. That's called instant messaging. But when you have 20 million people, then you got a conversation, right? But you remember last year or 2 years ago, Threads was supposed to be the Twitter alternative.
Threads had, I think, the most meteoric rise of any social media.
Yeah. 100 million in a month, remember?
Yeah, because it was so easy to join, because it was piggybacking off of Instagram, and you hit one button and suddenly you have an account.
It was also bullshit, because again, they were just coupling you into Instagram. People try it out, but no one stayed. No one actively uses Threads. Like, everyone has it, no one uses it. It's sort of like if you type it on your Windows machine, you had WordPerfect for 20 years, you never used it.
Well, and like, that was a weird one. It's like they released this thing because someone obviously worked on it for some amount, but they were working on this thing and it didn't have most of the basic features because it was, Threads was a direct competition to X and Twitter. It didn't have any of the basic features. Like, you couldn't even direct message someone. You couldn't reply to basic stuff like that. There were some fundamental issues with the service when it was released, and I don't know why, but yeah.
I mean, Bluesky is part of Twitter. Like, people don't realize this. That Bluesky, was a Twitter alternative made by Twitter. It was developed by Twitter. It was, it was done by it was same DNA, and it branched off. I think, was it this year or last year? And again, it was Jack Dorsey who developed it, and even he left the project, and he basically said, "Stay at Twitter." I think Dorsey still owns stock in Twitter, or X, so he probably has some, residuals from that. But no, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if 25 million is good or not, Ben. I'll be honest with you, because again, in this day and age, you see these platforms, they grow and they grow and they grow, and not too many of them stick. It's like spaghetti. Not too many of them stick. Like, how do you have 100 million users and no traction? You know what I mean? How does that work? Like, what's happening? Like, what's the point of keeping it alive at that point?
Yeah, it's and really, these different services, you need to have mass appeal, not just in your mission and your mission statement, but your user base has to have, because when you, again, not to get too much into politics, but when you look at let's just say Truth Social. Truth Social is going to attract a certain type of user that will have a certain political bent. So this is very obvious. And there's not a lot of like, you know, I feel like people who don't have that political bent are going to be just on Truth Social to then try to troll or make fun of people who have that political bent. Like, there's not a lot of diversity. There's not a thriving ecosystem. It is it's almost like those forests that they plant where they plant like 10,000 pine trees.
That's what it is.
But it's like a forest that has 10,000 pine trees, and it doesn't have the biodiversity it needs to technically be called a forest.
Exactly.
So, and like I feel like Bluesky being a knee-jerk reaction to Elon Musk and X and the purchase and blah blah blah, like a certain type of user is going to be on Bluesky. Maybe it can diversify a bit more, but all of them, like, you need that diversity. You need that the diversity of, you know, viewpoints and users and so on and so forth, because these companies can exist in their own respective bubbles, but that's not what made Facebook, Twitter, you know, all these other social media, TikTok even, it's not what made them huge, you know, truly social media. It just made them niche.
Well, check this out, though. I have nothing against Bluesky or Parler. Remember Parler or Gab or Telegram or any of these other things? I understand we need niche products for niche groups. Like Teams is never going to satisfy the Snapchat market, right?
Right.
Like, there's something to be said about over-specialization when it comes to productivity. Like you said, knee-jerk reaction to Twitter and Musk. That's exactly what Bluesky is. And the only problem is that let's see what happens, because competition is good. But the problem with social media is that it becomes so strided, it literally serves no purpose. And up to this point right now, I wish Bluesky the best. I do think there should be alternatives. But at the end of the day, if it does seem that Bluesky is becoming what Parler and, like I said, Gab has become for the left. It's becoming a gigantic echo chamber of which no gas escapes. And so you can't go on Bluesky and expect to get the same return on interest on your outrage tweet or whatever they call it, simply because there's just supply exceeds demand.
Yeah, the point I want to make up those is not that niche products shouldn't exist or they can't exist. They can exist for as long as they want to.
They absolutely should. By the way, they should.
It's no big deal. It's just people won't care about it as much. Like when Facebook does something, people care because they have 2 billion users or wherever they're up to or down to now, whatever it is. Like X has still hundreds of millions. Like, yeah, you can be niche and that's going to be cool. You can create the ecosystem that you're going to make, but niche doesn't drive headlines. Niche doesn't, people don't go to these things to make stories.
I'll say this. I love diversity, and I also believe in nationalism at the same point. And the problem is that if you have these, when a product becomes so profoundly niche, then your expectations for the success of that product have to be tempered, because you simply cannot have a product that is entirely one perspective and expected to compete on the same level as a diverse product. Like if Bluesky reaches 2 billion users and it does it with an echo chamber, then fantastic. But it's not going to reach. It is never going to compete with Twitter on volume, because those same people that are on Bluesky are still on Twitter, because that's the only place they get reactions. If you go back to Bluesky, Bluesky is like it's like you singing in the shower, right? And your mother tells you, "You are such a great singer. You should be on television," right? Oh my God! And then you sing on, you go to Broadway. You stink, and that's what Bluesky is. Bluesky is like, "Oh my God, you're so insightful. Oh my God, I hate that person too. We hate the same people. Let's be friends. Oh my God, we all hate." And then you go in the real world, and that crap doesn't fly. And it's good. It's good in the micro, but it cannot exist in the macro. And Twitter might be volatile, or X, it might be volatile. It might be a little racist. It might be a little anti-Semitic. It might be a lot of those things. But I'll tell you right now, it's a lot more interesting. And
there you go.
That's the price you pay for interesting things. And that's the thing.
So we're going to pivot a little bit, and I was looking through some of the other stories that I had, kind of lined up. We're going to skip a couple of them. Ladies and gentlemen, if you use a VPN for any reason, make sure it's a credible one. Just want to throw that out there. Sometimes,
yes, please.
sometimes bad VPNs are even worse than no VPNs. Please remember that. It's it's a problem. So we're going to skip over some of these stories, and also, hey, don't fly your drones near airports. That should be obvious.
Or in New Jersey, by the way.
Or in New Jersey, which has banned. Yes, they have temporarily banned drones in New Jersey. So yeah, have fun, everyone. So the last thing we're going to talk about, and I think just because of time, Nathan, I don't have time to bring up about this. Apple on their new iPhone is using AI, artificial intelligence, to summarize headlines.
Nobody cares about Apple Intelligence. Can we just summarize that? Nobody cares.
There you go. And apparently it's not going too well. So everyone,
no, it's not.
Double check everything. So the last thing we're going to leave everyone with, because it's going to be fun, crypto steals the show in the new Superman teaser. This is the article that I'm pulling from, but the main point here is that Superman by James Gunn, right? Yeah, James Gunn has a new trailer out, and it looks, my God, the costume looks so boyishly stupid that I love it. Like that, it's a return to form for Superman. So what did you think about the trailer? And not giving to ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know about Superman at this point, I am
not a Zack Snyder fanatic, but the trailer for Zack Snyder's Man of Steel, which came out in 2013, remains one of the best trailers ever made. It is triumphant. If you watch that trailer today, if you go back and watch Man of Steel trailer today, it gets you pumped up. You're like, yes, Superman's back. Oh my God, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen. The music, everything in that trailer is great. The movie, So on one hand, I didn't get that same feeling from the Superman trailer, but what I did get was the idea that this franchise is going to be more successful. And I'll tell you why. I love the Christopher Reeve movies. For Christmas, I'm going to watch the Christopher Reeve documentary, the Superman documentary. It looks fantastic. I mean, everyone loves Christopher Reeve. That's the one constant in the universe. Everybody likes Christopher Reeve. Nobody hates him. Everybody loves him. Everybody says definitive, right? The Superman movie, which I think it had its birthday this year, was 45 years old or whatever. It's still the best superhero movie ever made. It's fantastic, fantastic. There's vibes of that movie in this trailer. And I think James Gunn gets it. And I think the fact that you have Crypto, the super dog with a cape, rescuing Superman, is so silly on its face that I don't know what the mood of this is going to be, but I tell you right now, it's not going to be dour. It is not going to be depressing. It's bright and colorful. It's got a version of the John Williams theme, a reworked version of it. James Gunn he's hit the ball out of the park with pretty much everything he's ever done. And he does bright, colorful, happy, cheerful. He knows what he's doing.
Except for Guardians of the Galaxy 3. I don't know what bad morning he had when he wrote that, but other than that,
except okay, let me put it this way. That movie's great, by the way. I love Guardians 3, but it is tough to watch if you love animals. Can I say that?
Yeah.
And Crypto better not have any bad moments.
Crypto Crypto and like just all the characters, and they did, show like Hot Girl, for instance, like, one of the and I grew up watching the cartoons of like Justice League and whatnot. Like there are characters in there that I'm like, thank goodness they finally included, because they're going to be so cool. And it's the trailer was cool. As someone who liked the cartoons from the early 2000s, I was like, this is going to be good, really.
There's a video that's going off. Did you see it?
No.
Have you seen the video where they posted of I'm going to send this to you in the chat real quick so you can put this on the thing.
Sure.
It's only 2 seconds long. Check this out. It's on everything. Check this out.
Sure. Let me see.
This little clip actually made me more happy than the trailer. Look at this. This is official. See? He's Clark Kent. He's a goofball. Look at him. Yep. Look how nerdy he is. So you gotta make it move.
Yeah. One second, sorry.
See that? Look at, he's a little dork, right? Oh, look at that. And then he's Superman.
Yep.
Like, there's a clip from Superman 1 or 2, a very famous clip of Christopher Reeve showing his acting prowess, because he's a fantastic actor, where he's like slunches his body over. He's just like, he's all nerdy. He's putting his glasses up, right?
Yep.
And then when he wants to tell Lois he's Superman, his back straightens up. He transforms using his physical prowess.
Yep.
and you buy it. Like, this is why no one could tell. And you see this little clip of the new guy. What is it? David Cornsweet.
Yeah.
He's a good actor, I can tell. And like, you believe these are two different people.
Yep.
You know what I mean? They look different. They look different. Like, and that's fantastic. And I think it's happy. I think the world needs a Superman movie that's not depressing. And I hope this movie's that.
I think is the number one thing is like Superman that and just the entire last like 15 years of the DC universe has just underperformed Marvel for a long time because honestly, like, I don't know, there was the Batman trilogy that, you know, was all kung fu and moody and cool and he was badass, and they kind of took that feeling and just tried to apply it to every comic book, and like, you know, everything just had to be darker colors, moodier characters, more severe stakes, life or death, and nothing in DC felt like, you know, a romp. Nothing felt fun. And I hope that they really capture that. And it looks like they are, you know, at least from the trailer, looks like they did.
There was an argument that you can't have Superman in today's day because we're too cynical, right? That we wouldn't accept the Boy Scout. And I remember Marvel, I forget who it was, but when they made the Captain America film, right? The one with Chris Evans, they would purposely make his character dorky and old-fashioned. Like, he would like, language, you know, like he would chastise people for doing that. And people loved that character. And I think it's such a middle finger to people to say that you can't accept a character that is
unconditionally
a character that is unconditionally
good.
Nice.
Yeah,
and good and pure. Because if you can suspend your disbelief that a man can fly, then you can probably suspend your disbelief that he can be benevolent and nice. He doesn't have to be moody, and he doesn't have to be emo and grunge. He could wear his underwear on the outside of his uniform. He could fly, and he can have a little pet dog that saves him with his own little cape. It's adorable, and I'm all for it. That's the reason I want to do it. And again,
it's so good.
For Christmas,
it's so good.
For Christmas, I want people to go to YouTube. Here's your homework, and just go look up that scene from Superman the movie when Superman saves Lois with a helicopter. It's the best. It's the best moment in comic book movie history. It's the one. It hasn't aged bad at all. It's the one where he's flying up to the skyscraper. Lois is falling. The airplane's falling. He grabs the helicopter. He grabs Lois, right? And Lois is like, and he goes to Lois and he's like, "I've got you." She's like, "You got me? Who's got you?" You know. And they ask him like, "Who are you?" And he just says, "A friend," and he flies away. That's it. Perfect.
I did not know Green Lantern was Nathan Fillion.
I'm good.
Yeah. I did not know Green Lantern was Nathan Fillion.
Dorky. That's so dorky.
The bowl cut.
I love that.
Who knew?
That's Nathan Fillion, by the way.
Yeah. I had no idea. So it's
comic book accurate, by the way. Comic book accurate. All this stuff. Yep. For better or for worse.
Hal Jordan in his bowl cut. Yeah, we'll see. But still, very, very good. And ladies and gentlemen, I think we're going to kind of leave it there. And I really don't know how else to say this, but everyone, I hope that you had fun listening to us kind of talk about this. Nathan, as we kind of head out, I think the next time we talk is probably going to be not even CES coverage, I'm thinking, but it's going to be more of like a CES wrap up. Like, you know, we're going to come in after the fact
after the show
and kind of pick out the best pieces and pick out the stuff. And I would love to get together with you and, and Herman and anyone else that would like to join us and just, say, hey, how did that go? The thing that we barely paid attention to and after the fact. So, but either way, Nathan, I want to thank you so much for getting back on the show. It's been a wild couple of months, but I'm so happy that we're able to do this again. And everyone, popzara.com if you want to hear more of, in the cosmic sense from Nathan, because him and his writers do so much work over there. You can see it all there. Check out their podcast, check out their articles. And Nathan, I will see you here next time. Everyone, have a great day.
Yep.
Thank you so much. Bye,
Happy
everyone.
holidays.
Happy holidays. Bye.